One of the first things I do every time I arrive at the shelter is go check the infirmary and meet the new arrivals. They're usually there in their kennels, recovering or not. They're at their most vulnerable there. Even when they fully recover and become again the beautiful dogs they once used to be, that first image just never leaves your mind. It just doesn't. That's where I first saw him one morning, in his crate. In my many attempts to describe the dog that Richard was, I've half succeeded, which means that I've also half failed. So I'll try again. Even at his lowest, he had the elegance of a gentleman. Like a kind, graceful man, he was taking in the pain as if he owned it, with some kind of wisdom. But at the same time, Richard was a very young dog back then. He was just a boy. And watching a boy embracing pain with such elegance and grace made looking at him hauntingly beautiful in a way. He got better only to get worse after a couple of weeks. The next time I saw him, he couldn't even get himself up. Was this it? Was he accepting death and letting go? His vitals were not good, and tests were showing a dog that was dying. I waved him goodbye that day and thought I'd never see him again. The summer passed, and I came back in September to find that he had miraculously recovered. He had made it out of the infirmary and into the shelter. The shelter where he would live for the next 2.5 long years. It's difficult seeing someone like him wasting his days in anonymity. Not that his life had more value than the rest, but everything about him had an I don't belong here air. I don't belong here, but yet I have accepted it, as I accept everything. You know, shelters change dogs. The stress changes them, the overexcitement, the confinement. No matter how much we try, day after day, week after week, year after year, shelter life gets to them somehow. But to him it didn't. It was as if he had something peaceful inside him that was louder than the noise around, louder than the barking and the stress. He was accepting this life, just as he had accepted his death, with some sort of self-awareness that he probably didn't even realize he had. I spent hours watching him for more than 2 years. He was just so pleasant to watch, to be around. He always looked healthier than he was, really. He never fully recovered. Some just don't. But whatever it was that was trying to kill him inside, he was fighting it with elegance and beauty. So beautiful his soul was that it would shine all around him and all inside him, and you could just see that. You could actually see it. I remember the exact moment when Sohpie and Franjo asked to adopt him. There's this thing about good news. You never enjoy the moment enough. No matter how much you try to expand it in time and let it fulfill you, your enthusiasm shrinks it to just a few seconds, and then you repeat these seconds in your head again and again, trying to feel that first high. This is a couple that had adopted not 1, but 2 very sick dogs already, and Richard was going to be the 3rd. And you know what it is about adopting sick dogs? The cliché about how love cures everything actually turns out to be true, and I'm sorry if that sounds too annoyingly romantic, but it is a fact. There is so much love in that home that it just cures, and it's the realistic kind of love, the one that says, I don't care if I only get to spend a few months with him. I'm gonna try and make these months the best of his life. I will, however, try to turn months into years, and I believe I can do it. It's been a couple of months now that Richard lives at home with his family in Vienna. Unlike some other dogs, he looked right at home from the first moment he arrived. That's the kind of dog he is. He's made so many uncomfortable situations look comfortable, that now that he is finally living in comfort, he finally doesn't need to try that hard. His new name is Ivo. It's a boy's name of German origin, meaning yew wood. The yew tree is symbolic of immortality and everlasting life, of rebirth, changes and regeneration after difficult times and protection. The yew's branches grow into the ground, so when the trunk dies, the tree is able to continue living. Most parts of it are toxic, actually, and can lead to death. But this death is spiritually viewed by some as a true transformation and rebirth into another world. When Richard almost died 2.5 years ago, he was reborn into Ivo. And when you look at him now, you can see life and death. You can see past and present, surrounded by the serenity and the wisdom of what appears to be just the body of a black and white dog.
Hello, I am Valia. If you like the videos, please subscribe, and if you can, join me on Patreon and help create more compassionate people. Para la versión del canal en castellano, busquen el enlace abajo.